Welcome to Audiation in the Wild with your hosts, Beau Taillefer and Eric Rasmussen. Season 4, Episode 3. Special guest, Keith Fleming, Mr. Eric's former first grade student. All right. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Mr. Eric, how's it? Or Dr. Eric, sorry. To get this right.
Yeah. Keith Fleming, you were a student in my first grade class, my very first year at Orchids. That was the very first year of Orchids in West Baltimore. What was the name of the school?
Harriet Tubman Elementary.
Yeah. And so the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, Maren Alsop, got a MacArthur Genius Award, and she put in $1 million or
something like that
to help seed the first year of the Orchids program. So and Dan Trahey, who kind of spearheaded that, called me and said, do you want to be the teacher for musicianship, audiation teacher? And I said, yeah, I'm down. And then I go to class, and this guy's there. He's a first grader. So tell us where you are now, and in between when I saw you and where we are.
So now I am a graduate of the University of Miami. I studied music professional studies there, which I went in actually as a music education major, but I had switched to music professional studies just because I wanted a broader and more diverse music education so that I could teach better, in my opinion. But from the time Mr. Eric met me, man, I was a very active, let's just use that word, kid at the time. But I learned from a lot of things that I did in the past, and I matured a lot, so I came a long way. And when I started taking music seriously, I was able to get a lot of opportunities, like going to Interlochens Arts Academy. I went to the Yola National Festival. That's what they call it now. Before it was called
Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles.
Yeah, before it was called National Take a Stand, just to encompass all of the people that were coming around. But I did things like that. I taught at many camps in Baltimore through the Peabody Institute, through Orchids program. And then I was able to make trips to other states like Dallas and Colorado and where else, Connecticut, things like that. I was able to travel a lot, and I was fortunate enough to go outside of the country as well at a young age, which helped me mature. And I used all of that to get to a point now where I started my own music education program, and it's called the Right Direction Project. And we are essentially trying to use all those skills that we learned from a lot of the camps that we've been to, and then also combining it with things that we feel that students need to learn now, like the business skills and the financial literacy skills, so that they can make it a lucrative career. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I'm at now, and I'm pursuing that dream because it's been something that I've been thinking about since a kid. Once I realized the big opportunity that I could get from music, I wanted to share that with the students in Baltimore because a lot of them don't have access to that. And I was very lucky to get it because I could have not been at Harriet Tubman, and then, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It could have, everything else could have went differently. So I'm grateful for that, and I want to spread that gift to people so that they know that, you know, music, it doesn't have to make you a musician. It just has to make you a better person, you know? So
yeah,
that's kind of sort of just.
Yeah. So I saw what he was up to, Beau, and I don't friend my students. Even in college, I want to kind of leave them alone, even when they're adults. But I saw what he was up to on Facebook, and then friended him, and said, let's talk. And we talked for 45 minutes, and I said, this is a story that's, it's certainly worthy of being more public than it is, because you are one of the few people that are this young in your career that got some serious audiation training when I was teaching, and that's what this podcast is about is kind of like, uh, how do you find the musician and the children that you have? How do you develop, that? Um,
Hmm.
and so you said something to me during that conversation that we had about like some of the stuff you were learning in college. Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, I was basically telling Mr. Eric that some of the stuff that I had learned in college was some of the same things I learned when I was in his class. And I mean, at the time, you don't really realize it because you're young and you're just, you're there. But as they started talking about things like, I mean, they put a name to it, but like modal interchange, for instance, like we were learning things like that at a young age, or even simply being able to understand a 1-4-5 progression, like things like that. I didn't notice, or I didn't really know that a lot of students that were my age, freshman year of college, are just now learning that and learning why a 1-4-5 progression is the standard progression in jazz and classical music and all of these things. And like just small things like that really enhanced what I was doing there, because for me, it was really just a review
Mhm.
instead of it being something that I was learning again. So I was very happy to know that like my training did, you know, uh, did contribute to that. And also I was surprised, and I was trying to give Dr. Eric his flowers, because I'm so used to calling him Mr. Eric
Yeah, yeah,
because when I was
that's how
younger,
it was.
but I wanted to give Dr. Eric his flowers because that was some serious training that it really made us into some very experienced musicians. And not everybody took it, but I
Mm.
did, and it enhanced everything that I was doing now. Like even now, and I can think back to when we would dance into Blue Rondo a la Turk, learning about 7/4. Is it 7/4 or 7/8 or something like
I
that?
think it's 11.
Oh, 11.
You could
Yes,
probably
11 and
say the rhythm. You can do it.
yeah. See, like these things, it's imprinted. I mean, imprinted into my brain.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just very grateful that I was able to experience that at a young age, because it did make me really love music when I was starting to understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did that one, and we also did Candide, the overture
Yes.
to Candide, which is a good one. They really got into, when they would find something that they really got into, I would bang it for a long time, because they get them bigger, get them more expressive, get them more accurate, get them more, uh, whatever, let
Mm-hmm.
them have experience that joy. And I always kind of held that to the end. We get our work done, we're gonna dance.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
literally it, and that was like the reward almost.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about your playing, because you're not just a music, leading a music. You're a music educator. So you're
Hmm.
not just a music educator. Talk about your musician ship. What do tell us about your playing
Yeah,
and
so
what you do.
I play the tuba. That's like my primary instrument. But I've been picking up a lot of instruments along the way. So
Oh, cool.
I've,
What?
I've learned, I've learned trombone. I've learned euphonium. Well, I started on euphonium, so that one is kind of like, yeah. But I learned euphonium. I can play around on the keys. Part of that again comes from all of the oral skills that we did in Dr. Eric's class. I'm learning the electric bass as well. Drums and percussion is something that I can do, and I think that's about it. I'm also trying to pick up guitar too, but tuba is my main instrument, and right now, at least in Baltimore, I've been doing a lot of second line gigs, New Orleans second line, and I'm in this band, and we play a lot of funk and jazz and also R&B and things like that. Like we'll either be a house band for a gig and we'll play some tunes in the background, or we'll be the second line marching people up and down aisles and things like that. So that's cool. And also I still play classical tuba as well. That's something that's still close to my heart. And at some point I think I want to start like a chamber ensemble here, something that I can still stay in those roots, because I love classical music. I
Mm-hmm.
know that's not like, might not be a popular thing in Baltimore, but I love it, and I really do want to keep it up.
Many greats say there is no, stop. There's Chick Corea is one. He'll say there's just no. It's really restrictive to say
Yeah.
this style of music. He says it's just music. There's just music.
I have this
And stop.
I have this Keith Jarrett playlist that I made on iTunes, and it's just half him playing Bach and then half just like his regular stuff.
Yeah,
I love it. It's great. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, there's a ton of musicians that just say stop talking about it. It's really Louis Armstrong, who's my biggest idol.
Or even look at like John Williams, the composer, right? A lot of people don't realize he has really solid jazz chops. I mean, you can pick that up on some of his scores. Like if you listen to like the score to Catch Me If You Can, you can. But if you listen to standard stuff like the Star Wars theme and Indiana Jones, you wouldn't necessarily think like this guy really has a handle of like jazz harmony, but he does, right? And
it's crazy. And also, like, one of my favorites, Leonard Bernstein too. He kind of sort of opened me up to that, like the whole idea that there can be, like, you can combine the genres. Like you said, after a while, I started realizing that there is no real standard genre as much as there is just music that you're making and you're feeling at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I want to teach to a lot of students is that, classical music may sound different from hip hop, and hip hop may sound different from jazz, but they all derive from the same thing, and that's emotion. It's feeling. So, yeah.
And a lot of I have a student who's now, I think this is his first year. He's in university studying jazz, but I don't even think of him as a jazz musician, right? Like he was taking piano lessons with me, and he just got interested in jazz harmony. I started throwing he was composing his own little tunes. You can start getting an awareness of like, he'll probably won't mind like a major 7 on the 4 chord. That's like the gateway drug for everyone. That's how you get people into 7th chords. Put a major 7 on the 4 chord, and before long, they like the major 9. They like the 5 of 2. Like there's a progression to like, and then after people dig those sounds, he's like, oh, I can put these changes in like hip hop tunes, and these are actually in Bach tunes too, and I actually like that sound now, but I didn't realize that before, and I think that's such a good point, not to become like genre purists. I think obviously everyone has their genres they like, but it's all. I think you're onto something there. It definitely is. Whatever you're feeling, is what matters.
Like I had played this Contrapunctus by Bach. I think it was number 27. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Dr. Eric, but it's in C minor, something like that. And the progression, it was the same progression that I had heard in, I think it was I forget which hip hop song it was, but I had heard it in there too, and I was like, whoa, hold on, this is Bach, and I heard this somewhere else, and I'm like, oh, so this is, like you said, it's all just feeling, or people just taking them from what they heard and what they thought sound cool, and that's just so dope.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the fun too, like if you were gonna produce or write beats or the background to like a hip hop song, like see if you can steal the changes only from a Bach tune. Like I love doing stuff like that where you put some kind of constraint on it, and no one knows. It's funny though.
So we can throw notation down in front of keys. We can, have them over for a jam session and just throw down some tunes and just use your ear and improvise. Hey, do you compose at all? Do you write some stuff up for your band?
So I've been doing a lot more arranging recently than like arranging and transcribing than composing. But to keep like that composing itch going, I like to make beats a lot. And like you were saying, Beau, like the whole idea of taking some things from different classical pieces that you hear, or like I would sometimes sample, like I would get MIDI. I would try to basically make some recordings into MIDI and then take the MIDI and use it in different ways, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I try to keep it going as much as possible, but I don't do as much composing as I would like to do. So I'm gonna try to get back into that more.
The broader your experience is, the more you get all that into your audiation, the more tools you'll have to, harmonic and melodic or rhythmic tools you'll have to put into, there's no hurry. You'll have a bigger bucket full of stuff. So yeah, I just, I really enjoyed having you in class, despite what you might have thought. There were times because he was a squirrel, but uh, but he was always he always had the side eye like when I did something new. Like I got it, you know. I knew I had him. But you know, just because you're smart and you're musical, and you stuck out early, and you know that first class of orchids was special. Do you stay in touch with some of them? I'm sure, like Deshay for sure, right?
Yeah, I don't have a choice with that one. That's my sister. But for the most part, I at least like the Palmers I speak to. I see the Lassiters on Facebook and things like that. But a lot of people we kind of fell off, but it's not because, you know, we don't want to talk, you know, just life gets in the way. So I haven't talked to a lot of them, but the immediate people, I still keep in contact with and try to make sure that we're at least talking like once or twice a month.
How about Lowrider?
Oh, that's my boy. That's my boy. He
Lowrider, man. They didn't start him on baritone.
No, they
didn't.
Was kindergarten.
He was kindergarten or even pre-K, and they were making this guy blow air into a tuba.
Nice.
Like, it was crazy.
And like, I was yelling at Mr. Dan. I was like, Dan, you know, this don't hurt this poor kid.
No, for real.
This thing was twice as big as he was. You could put him in the bell.
Now he's a machine, though. Like, Lowrider is playing, like, even now to this day, I've been telling him since we were kids, like, yo, you're going to be better than me. And now he has been to the point where he's surpassed me tremendously. And I love it, though, because it's a different type of grind, you know? Like, I kind of sort of made my grind a little bit more broader. And that was just because I love tuba, but I think that I had a different purpose. Yep. But Lowrider, I think he's going to be the person that shows people that the tuba is that instrument. You know, like the way he can play it and the way he can make it sound how he wants to make it sound. That's a different gift, you know, and I think that it comes from him being in kindergarten, just blowing on a horn, trying to figure it out. Like,
just getting all up in his business.
Keith, how long were you in? Like, how many years of Eric's classes did you end up taking?
I think from first to fourth grade. Yeah, first to fourth or fifth grade.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such a cool testament to Eric, and I have talked about this before on the podcast, but my experience with music educators and people that think about music education, they kind of take the younger grades less seriously. And then by the time people wind up at me, they're like 10, 11, 12. And people are like, okay, now I'm going to seriously learn piano or guitar. Yeah. And I think of it exactly the opposite. Like, you should have taken this more seriously at a younger age, just because of the impact it can have on people. And I think if I had kids, I'd be running Eric's curriculum or just moving to Baltimore, getting him to teach the damn thing, because I think a lot of people don't realize what Eric's doing, and people like Eric, the high quality education that people are receiving. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you got hit by some kind of grace or luck by being planted in his class. I mean, and for whatever reason, you know, I had a lot of people around me when I was younger, and I think that's why I turned out well too. But I mean, that's basically the jackpot in terms of music education. Yeah.
For real. Yeah. I agree. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I often tell my business partner that we did get really lucky. My business partner is Devron. I don't know if you remember him, Dr. Eric. Devron Dennis. You might not have had him, but he was in your class a couple of times. But I tell him all the time, I'm like, yo, we got really lucky because when we were young, we were able to just focus on what music was. You know what I'm saying? And the idea of understanding the basics, like you said, and then really being able to dive deep into that. And to me personally, and this is something that I think that we are trying to lean towards now, and it's like you said, in those first couple of years, it should be just simply learning the music and getting it into your brain. But then once you get to the 10, 11, 12, 13 years, you should start to understand that if you want to do this for real, it's a business. and what comes with it. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, you can't go too deep into it because kids won't understand the full capacity of what it takes. But at least starting to understand that this industry is a business, and you have to start working it like it's a business. You know, so you have to practice and you have to be on it, or you have to understand that your teacher can only do so much for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to apply yourself as well. And I feel like that was something that we kind of, again, we lucked out on in our first couple of years after being with Eric. We got lucky because the program that we was in was kind of sort of teaching us some of these business things. And, you know, like, for instance, we would have to take down classes, you know, like break down the stuff or set up for classes, or we would have to schedule some of our own rehearsals for like bucket band and things like that. And these little things showed us like, oh, so there is another component to being a musician, and that's being able to manage yourself, you know, and learning that at a young age. That's what taught me, and it matured me. Again, like I said before, like it made me into who I am now, because I understood that there was another component that I needed to put into the music that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it doesn't always come out in the music.
I think that's so important. I mean, I feel like obviously the financial literacy of how to run a business comes into play, but I think at a even a higher level, it's just a lot of musicians don't learn how to manage projects and execute projects and manage their own behavior in relation to that. And I see that as a huge, you know, a huge problem if someone wants to pursue music as a career. Because I had this guitar teacher in Vancouver who, amazing guy, amazing guitar player. But I would say for me, what was even more inspiring than in terms of getting lessons from him, more than just like him showing me cool licks and stuff like that, this guy was just a machine in terms of executing projects. Like he could set projects up, knock them down, execute. And he, you know, it's not easy to be a professional instrumental guitar player and be successful at it. And he's a professor now I'm talking about Dave Martone. He's a professor in just outside of Vancouver in New Westminster at Douglas College, I believe. Last I checked. But that was only recently. And this guy had a very successful career in terms of making albums, successful teaching studio, doing lots of like clinics at like music festivals, and was like a backup guitar player. And this guy could really manage like a career. And I never got lessons from him on that, but just being around someone who is efficient like that, it's inspiring. And the other version of that I saw when I briefly went to recording school was just seeing producers think more like that, in my experience, than instrumentalists do. Producers tend to think way more strategically about, okay, I have to make this project, make this performance, make this album, and actually ship it like it's ready to go. And it's a different skill set. It's a different mindset. And it's, I wasn't expecting to talk about this today with you, but I think it's important. I think it's really cool. I had that student I was telling you guys about that's in university this year studying jazz. He's like that. He has that ability. Like he thinks in terms of project management. And even when this kid was in high school, I mean, he'd be like recording songs and, you know, writing tunes, but he was shipping them, like putting them on iTunes and like, you know, getting the projects done. And I was like, damn, like this kid's inspiring me. Like I gotta get my own shit together here. Yeah, and it's cool when you see that, you know, it's like what you said, it's more than just learning music. I've obviously learning to audiate like cooler progressions is obviously very fulfilling and satisfying and getting better at your instrument. But this other skill set where you can actually like, you know, make it a financially viable thing or just execute projects. I think even if you take the business point, like the ability for someone to say like, oh, I'm going to learn this guitar piece and perform it for my wife at our anniversary party. A lot of people don't think like that in terms of projects. And I've seen the musicians that I've taught that do think like that. They end up being way more fulfilled by it, even if there's not a financial component involved in it. They can finish something and you know, show it to people. So, I mean, that's what comes to mind when you.
Yeah, it's really commendable piece, you know, to take that perspective on and, you know, bring your musicianship with you. So after our conversation, I promised Keith a whole bunch of stuff, and I just dumped a whole tractor trailer load of Molly Gabrian, her book, her YouTube channel, and her website, and I dumped direct instruction on this guy. Just, 'cause he's smart. This guy is a smart MFer, man. And and uh, and then what else? I just gave you a whole ton of stuff to, my book, of course, and
in Eric Gordon's thing, right? The audiation class.
Yeah, I have my harmonic learning sequence class. I'm gonna get you to send me your teachers when you got a whole bunch of teachers. But I've been training teachers all over the world to do this. I don't know how much I talked about. They're not very many, 40, 50, but they're buying in. Some, and mostly piano teachers. It's curious to me that instrumental teachers or general music teachers aren't necessarily picking that up here very much. They're not quite as open. Everybody kind of wants to stick in their, in their tradition.
Yeah, and it's strange because to me, like, I don't know if it's because I'm young or something, but I feel like evolution, has to happen in the sense that, like, we have to keep learning new ways to teach the new generation. Like you were saying on our phone call, like, we have to teach the students, like, how they like to be taught, not teach how you were taught to teach. Because at the end of the day, we're going off of old philosophies, old things that don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily help the people now. And don't get me wrong, it's some things that we have to go off of, like some standards, of course. But again, like, students are developing at a faster rate, I feel. And they're learning a lot more because of the internet. And I feel like just embracing that instead of, like, shying away from it, you know what I'm saying? Like, embrace the fact that we have to change what we're doing. I think that would create better teachers in general.
Yeah, I think Eric's a good example of that. I mean, Eric has been steeped in the Gordon world and developing his own things for a long time. I think it'd be very easy for someone like him to just be like set in stone and this is the way. And then often him and I will just have conversations where we're just shooting stuff off each other, and he'll experiment with stuff in the classroom. And I find that very inspiring, and I've always, kind of striven to do the same thing. Where I think if we're doing the same thing we are now in 10 years, like, something ain't right.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to retire. I keep telling people I got a lot of work to do. I got more work now than I did 10 years ago. You know what I mean? I didn't bite off 10 years. I created 10 more of stuff that I need to do.
That right there is dope. And that's where I want to be, in the next 10 to 15 years. I want to be able to know that what I'm doing now is creating another path for me to learn. Like, I love to learn. And I love to soak up some knowledge from everyone. Like, I was telling Dr. Eric on our phone call, like, I speak to a lot of people, like, now at the age of 22, like, where I'm a new adult, you know what I'm saying? I just graduated college and I need to get information about the real world. Like, I talk to a lot of different people from different experiences who do different things, you know what I'm saying? And it really helps me open up my mind as far as what I put into music. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very inspirational. Breathes life into people to hear that. You know what I mean? It's so it's so rewarding for me, because it's what I aim for as a teacher, is find people that want to just continue to grow. And I want teachers to know that they're modeling learning in the classroom, that they're learning, and as you're learning, the other kids are like, oh, he's learning something. And then if you see that in front of you, oh, somebody's still, like, working on his, whatever it is. My craft is the kids, more than it is my horn. Yeah. But, my horn helped me, get that impetus, because that was my fun thing. It was the one thing I was better than my brother at. I was like, when I was little, like, how come he got piano lessons? I'm in 3rd grade, and he. Like, my brother got piano lessons. Like, what's wrong with me? I can't get piano lessons. So I started right up, and then singing in church choir or like that. Can you tell me about your early childhood stuff? Because that's my total, like from birth to at Peabody, I do 2 months old up to 8 years old, so first, second grade, whatever. Tell what can you tell us about your early childhood experiences? Like, what were what was your mom playing?
You said, what was
Music
my mom
or doing,
playing?
was she?
Oh yeah. I mean, in the house, like my grandmother, she loved soul and R&B, and like that right there was instilled into me. Like still to this day, I have a whole bunch of soul playlists that I listen to. You know what I'm saying? And also I think my mom liked a lot of pop music. So like she would listen to Adele a lot. That's one that I remember hearing a lot in the house. I mean, in the car. But also just my outside surroundings, like learning about hip hop at a young age. I didn't like get into it, you know what I'm saying? But I learned what it was, and I kind of sort of just grasped the concept of it. But all of those things, and then classical music too, because I started orchids at the age of 5, I think it was, or something like that. So those first 3 years, like 5 to 8, was really crucial for me learning, who Tchaikovsky was and who Beethoven was and all of these people, because it opened me up to a world that I didn't know existed, to be perfectly honest with you. Like for a while, I mean, I only thought that there was music with lyrics in it. And then, they opened me up to this whole new world. And then I was like, wow, like this music is beautiful without having to say a word. Like that expression is different. So kind of sort of, and when I was younger, I used to listen to more classical music than anything, because I don't know what it was. It was a little bit calming. And then I got into a lot of like brass band funk music. So like who's this band called Youngblood Brass Band? I don't know if y'all know them, but that band was like on repeat for me all the time.
At
And,
New Orleans.
and so yeah, that New Orleans sound, and like the Rebels, what is it called? I think it's the Rebels, Hot Rebels or something. Oh no, Hot 8 Brass Band, the Soul Rebels. All of them like was in rotation for me when I was young, because I mean, when I got the tuba, I didn't know what the tuba was. Like Dan Trey, he had introduced me to the tuba, and I was like, okay, this is I think I want to play this. And then they put me on euphonium, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I just started trying to learn more about what it was and how it sounded and how you can make it, sound differently and things like that. So that side, as far as like what I was listening to, I think I had a pretty diverse like music listening as a kid, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. No, one of the real important tenets of music learning theory, which is with Gordon's, development of audiation, and how do you do that, like how do you understand how the mind works to comprehend music, is the more you learn other things, the more you understand this other thing. So this thing doesn't mean as much until you know a lot of other things around it. So the contrast or all the differences, and you're an example of that too. But I got to find out, where's Lowrider now? Is he still in school? This is like,
yeah, he's at the Boston Conservatory.
Yeah, and he got a full ride. Okay, so that's the kind of kid.
There you go.
And I picked it. I knew from day, 2, that he was something.
That's cool.
I got a video of him jamming on the bass bars, because I would put these big bars, and they would play the bass. I only had 4 of them, right? I had C, D, G, and A, and so they would learn to hit the roots. And this guy picked this stuff up, Butterbeat. I remember him just going boom, 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 like 7/8 Dorian, right? He's like, and I said, did you get it? And he says, yeah. And how old are you? Kindergarten.
You just unlocked a memory for me though, because I remember it now. Like when we used to sit at the xylophones and stuff
Yeah.
like that and play all of the songs. Oh my
Yeah, I
god,
took that
taking me back.
audiation and put it in their hands, and then had them play chords. Somebody played roots, somebody played the melody, and then mix it up, and everybody had to play every part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's really good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, this is dope. It's like a full
It
circle
is.
moment almost, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is. Thank you. Thank you for giving that gift to the world. We got a few hundred people that listen to us out there, but it's
Okay.
a special audience. It's an important audience. Um, and
So Keith, so you're just recently finished your degree. So what's on the horizon for you right now? What are you planning in the near future?
So I want to get my master's in arts administration. But right now I'm taking a year off to just get my ducks in a row. While I was in Miami, it was hard to gain a lot of resources and get them, set into place just from being so far away from home. Um, so I just wanted to take a year to be back home and work, make sure that I get my money together and make sure I get all of the resources that I need together. And also just spend some time working on my program because I wanted us to be more active this year. We originally were designed to be just a summer program, but I want us to be more active throughout the year because we really like teaching the students here, and we really do feel like we are making an impact with them, even if it's 1 week out of the year or 1 week every month. Like we want to still be there and give them the resources that we think that they need, and also it's important for them to see people from Baltimore, doing this and trying to make music into something that is what it is. Well, no, sorry, trying to use music as the opportunity of what it is, and trying to show students that they can use it as well. Right now, though, I have a job at this school called Matthew A. Henson Elementary. I'm working with this LLC that brings tutoring to schools of need in Baltimore and also in Florida. Um, so I'll be working as like a social worker doing throughout the day, and then after school I teach music and I also help tutor
is
math. So
Brandon Green
that's
still there by chance at
where
at Henson?
I actually don't know because we haven't
Okay.
really got to work
Okay.
with the teachers as much.
So yeah, no,
So
it's just
it's
I had him as I was a mentor for Baltimore City School. Same time I was still
oh, that's
working
dope.
Orchid, so I was going around and working. He's a phenomenal musician, uh, good singer. I didn't know if he was still there even, but
Did he end up teaching choir at Orchids?
Brandon Green
Or am I
maybe, I
not
don't
think?
know. There's so
Um,
many.
yeah, it was so many.
There's
I
so
don't
many go
I
through.
don't know for sure.
Some people get eaten
Um,
up. Some people revel in it, but it takes some energy.
a lot of energy. I commend you for that because me when I actually started working there, I don't know, it just felt, and this is no harm intended at all. It just felt very draining, like just being a part of the process.
Mhm.
And I don't know what necessarily it was about it, but I just I had to go and try to explore some other things. I think for me it was like a little bit of a burnout too of just being in the same place because I grew up there as a student, so then being around some of the same people doing some of the same things over and over, it was just like, yeah, I need something different. I need
Yeah,
I need some new
yeah,
experiences to
Mhm.
to help
yeah,
shape me.
yeah. Trust your gut. Do what works.
Yeah.
Like that.
Mm.
Yeah, I think a lot of teachers experience that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fall into that burnout pattern, and I feel like that's why the breaks and vacations can be so important, but also just spicing things up.
It can be grueling work. All the stuff
Mhm.
besides like but it makes it all worth it because at the end of the day, you think about, what am I doing tomorrow based on what the kids showed me today. So I like go home and plan constantly. Like I'd be going to sleep thinking about what about second grade? What about this kid in second grade? What have I got? How do I get drag this guy into the mix because he's kind of on the outskirts and you you kind of consumed by it when you, and I was, I was beat when I got done. Uh, but the value is, on the other hand, what else would you do? I don't know. If you're not giving your
Exactly.
whole self, it can't be one where you just, you can't just, mail it in. And there's certain days where I would, and you know what mailing it in was for me? Just more dancing. Just like, hey, we get to the dancing real quick, and get more music that I hadn't played.
Yeah.
That was my mailing it in. It's just being more expressive, having days where I could just be a musician myself, not the teacher. Just like, I'll just show you how I move to this, and you guys picked up on it. And, what a joy. It was.
Well, I think, and the ongoing, Eric, Keith and Eric, you talked about this too, but the ongoing learning about teaching and learning more about education. I find that when teachers get into that, it gets into like this virtuous cycle where you're teaching, in your class, and you're learning on the side more things about learning, and then you're experimenting with those things in the classroom, and that, I think that helps mitigate a lot of the burnout, where when you're actively experimenting with things day to day, it doesn't feel like it's the same thing happening, day to day, because you're tinkering with something and you're trying to get to the bottom of, another way you could do something, or a new idea, or whatever it is.
So Keith, before we wrap up, tell us where we find you.
So on Facebook, you can find me at Keith Fleming. That's my profile name. And then also, if you guys could give a like to our music education program page, it's called The Right Direction Project. And then also the same thing on Instagram as well. It's at the Right Direction Project. And then my Instagram is also at _Keith Fleming. And yeah, you guys can reach out, or you can follow there, reach out, and also just follow along and see the journey. We plan on introducing a lot of new things this year that we haven't done with our program. So yeah, definitely stay tuned with that. Like for instance, we're going to do some jam sessions that are centered for the students specifically. We want to bring our students from 11 through 18 to come out and learn how to be in a professional jazz jam session, learn how to play chords and things like that. Like, and Dr. Eric, you are more than welcome to come through to that whenever you want. And Beau, if you want to zoom in, we got you. And because we want the kids to learn, from a whole bunch of different people, not just us. We want them to see, the whole world. So we are inviting anybody that want to contribute to let us know, and we'll find some way to fit you guys in, because again, that's what we want. We want to make our students the most diverse as possible, and the only way to do that is to get learning from all facets.
Totally cool.
That sounds great.
Totally cool, man. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah.